Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I'm 31 years old. For 8 years I was the backbone of Harrison Technologies. Not officially. Not in any title printed on business cards or etched onto conference room nameplates. But every major client knew my direct line. Every critical deadline lived on my calendar. Every crisis, technical, financial, operational, landed on my desk with a post-it note that said, "Rachel will fix this." And every single time, I did. I started at Harrison Technologies the summer after graduate school. 23 years old, MBA fresh in hand, ready to prove myself inside my family's software consulting firm. My father, David Harrison, had founded the company 32 years earlier. He built it from a garage startup into a $230 million operation with offices in 4 cities. "You'll start in project management," he told me on that first day, standing in the glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. "Learn the business from the ground up. That's how leaders are made." I believed him. I worked 80-hour weeks. I learned software development, client relations, contract negotiation, vendor management. By year 2, I was managing projects worth $8 million annually. By year 4, senior developers were asking for me by name because I understood both the technical requirements and the business implications. Clients trusted me. They relied on me. They called me when everything was on fire. When Meridian Industries, our largest client at $50 million annually, suffered a catastrophic system failure 3 years ago, they did not call the CEO. They did not call the CTO. They called my cell phone at 2 a.m. I assembled a team, worked 72 hours straight, rebuilt their entire infrastructure, implemented redundancies, and delivered them operational 3 days ahead of the emergency timeline. Their COO sent a handwritten letter that said, "Rachel Harrison saved our company. We are forever grateful." At the company celebration dinner, my father raised a toast to the Harrison Technologies team for their collective excellence. My name was never mentioned. My cousin Brandon, 29 years old and newly back from his 3rd startup failure, stood beside my father and smiled as if he had contributed something more than his presence. He had spent his 20s launching tech startups that burned through investor money before collapsing. No exits, no wins, just expensive lessons in what not to do, all funded by family money. When his last venture imploded, my uncle called my father and said, "Brandon needs stability. Bring him into Harrison. Let him learn from the best." Apparently, the best meant me. My father called me into his office on a Monday morning. "Brandon's joining the senior team," he said. "I want you to mentor him. Show him how we operate. He's family, and family takes care of family." I nodded. Family takes care of family. I had heard that phrase my entire life. At first, the mentoring was simple. I walked Brandon through our project lifecycle, client management systems, technical architecture. He took notes on an iPad, asked decent questions, acted like he wanted to learn. Then, the real pattern emerged, and once I saw it, I could never unsee it. Brandon would sit in client meetings, nodding and smiling while I presented the strategies, the timelines, the risk assessments. Afterward, my father would slap Brandon on the shoulder and say, "Great presence in there, son." Clients respond to that confidence. And me? I packed up the projector, collected the handouts, loaded the technical specifications into my bag, drove back to the office. Then I did the actual work while Brandon played foosball in the break room. When the Apex Digital account nearly walked because of a pricing dispute, I spent 2 weeks renegotiating terms. I created a custom package that saved them $2.3 million over 3 years while preserving our profit margins. The client was thrilled. They signed a 5-year extension worth $15 million. At the quarterly board meeting, my father stood and announced, "I'm pleased to report that Brandon successfully retained the Apex account through innovative negotiation. This is the kind of strategic thinking that will drive Harrison Technologies forward." Brandon looked uncomfortable. I looked at my laptop screen, where the 47-page proposal I had written was still open. That evening, Mrs. Patterson, our CFO for 18 years, found me in the parking garage. I was sitting in my car, not crying, just staring at the steering wheel like I was trying to remember how much a person could swallow before something inside finally broke. "He knows," she said through my open window. "David knows you saved Apex. The whole executive team knows. Then why does Brandon get the credit?" I asked. "Because acknowledging your work means acknowledging he's grooming the wrong person for succession." She squeezed my shoulder gently. "You're not invisible, Rachel. You're essential. That's different." And she was right. It was different. Essential people get used. Essential people get leaned on. Essential people become the machinery everyone depends on, and no one thinks to thank. The invisible labor went on for 8 years. I mentored Brandon. I taught him how to read technical documentation, manage difficult clients, negotiate contracts, handle vendor relationships. He slowly learned how to look competent in presentations. But he never learned how to do the real strategic work. When clients called with emergencies, they called me. When proposals needed final review at midnight, I handled them. When the board requested financial projections, I built the models and then sat there while Brandon presented them to applause. In year 5, my father created a new role for Brandon. Executive Vice President of Strategic Growth, corner office, view of the city, $250,000 salary, company car, business cards printed on heavy cardstock that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I was still senior project director, making $145,000, sitting in an interior office next to the server room where the ventilation system hummed without mercy. "You're doing critical work," my father told me when I finally asked about advancement. "Client-facing work. The operational foundation of this company." I kept my voice careful. "I've been here 8 years. I manage accounts worth $87 million. I've never lost a client. I've brought in $34 million in new business. I've mentored every senior hire for the past 4 years, including Brandon. And we appreciate that enormously," he said. "But Rachel, leadership isn't just about technical excellence. It's about vision, market positioning. Brandon has that natural executive presence clients respect. Brandon, the same Brandon who had asked me the week before what API stood for. The same Brandon who had missed a critical client presentation because he was hungover from a networking event. The same Brandon who still forwarded me emails with a single line. How should I respond to this? But Brandon played golf with my father every Saturday. Brandon made my uncle laugh at family dinners. Brandon was the son my father never had. I was just the daughter who made everything work behind the curtain. The breaking point came on a Thursday in March. My father called an all-hands meeting for 4 p.m. Strange timing. Big announcements usually came on Monday mornings. I assumed it was about the Meridian contract renewal I had been negotiating. We had just finalized terms, $65 million over 4 years, up from their current $50 million. The largest single contract in company history. The main floor filled with employees, 143 people from senior architects to junior developers. My father stood at the center with Brandon beside him, wearing a navy suit I recognized from the shopping trip where I had helped him pick out professional attire. "Thank you all for gathering," my father began. "Today marks a pivotal moment for Harrison Technologies." He talked about legacy, innovation, bold leadership, the next decade of growth. Everyone listened, nodding, assuming it was another corporate vision speech. Then he said it. Which is why I'm thrilled to announce that Brandon Harrison will be stepping into the role of Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. The room erupted in applause, professional applause, expected applause, scripted applause. I sat frozen, not president, CEO. The role that controlled strategy, operations, client relationships, the entire future of the company. The role I had been doing unofficially for 3 years. Brandon brings fresh perspective and natural leadership instincts to this position, my father said, almost glowing with pride. I'll be transitioning to executive chairman, providing guidance while Brandon leads us forward. Brandon stood, shook hands, accepted congratulations. His eyes found mine across the room. For a second, something flickered there. Guilt, maybe. Apology, maybe. Then the smile returned. After the meeting, I walked back to my office, sat down at my desk, and stared at the email I had been drafting to Meridian's CEO about the new contract terms. $65 million. I had negotiated every term, built the technical specifications, designed the implementation timeline, and now Brandon, a man who could not explain our core service offerings without a script, would take credit for all of it. My father appeared in my doorway 30 minutes later. I need you to transition your major accounts to Brandon over the next month, he said. He did not ask. He stated it. Meridian especially. You've built strong relationships there. I want you to ensure Brandon has everything he needs to maintain those connections. My relationships, I repeated quietly. The company's relationships, Rachel. You understand. This is about continuity. Brandon will need your institutional knowledge to succeed. Something inside me, something that had been bending for 8 years, snapped clean. And what is my new role? I asked. You'll continue as Senior Project Director. Your work is invaluable. Just because Brandon is CEO doesn't diminish your importance. After 8 years, after managing $87 million in accounts, after bringing in $34 million in new business, after negotiating the largest contract in company history, after mentoring Brandon himself for 3 years, after all that, I remain Senior Project Director in an office next to the server room, and Brandon, who asks me how to spell infrastructure, is CEO. My father's expression hardened. This isn't about keeping score. Brandon has qualities you lack. Executive presence, strategic vision, gravitas. You're an excellent operator, Rachel, but you're not leadership material. You never have been. Then he walked away. Not leadership material. I stared at my computer screen and let those words settle into something sharp, something clarifying. An hour later, Mrs. Patterson appeared with tea. She set it on my desk without speaking. When she turned to leave, she paused. My former colleague runs talent acquisition at Novak Solutions, she said quietly. They've been trying to poach Harrison's senior people for 2 years. I could make an introduction if you wanted. I looked up. She gave me a sad, knowing smile. Just something to think about. That night I sat in my apartment with my laptop open and the files I had been keeping for years. Not maliciously, not strategically, just professionally. Documentation was second nature to me. Every client account I managed, every contract I negotiated, every crisis I resolved, every late night, every weekend, every holiday I worked while Brandon posted Instagram stories from ski trips and beach resorts. The numbers were staggering. In 8 years, I had brought in $34 million in new business. I had maintained a 98% client retention rate. I had managed implementations for 23 major projects with 0 failures. I had trained 16 employees who were later promoted past me. I had built Harrison Technologies' reputation for excellence, and my reward was watching somebody else wear the crown I had forged. The email from Novak Solutions arrived the next morning. Subject: confidential opportunity, Chief Strategy Officer position. I almost deleted it. Loyalty, family, commitment, gratitude. My father's voice lived in all of those words. I opened it instead. Dear Miss Harrison, your reputation in the tech consulting space is exceptional. Novak Solutions is expanding our enterprise division and believes your expertise would be transformative. We'd like to discuss a Chief Strategy Officer position with full autonomy, equity participation, and compensation reflecting your actual market value. Would you be available for a confidential conversation? Best regards, Catherine Novak, founder and CEO, Novak Solutions. I read the message 4 times. Then I replied, available tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Catherine Novak's office was minimalist elegance. Clean lines, natural light, art that looked curated instead of purchased in bulk by corporate procurement. She was 46, sharp-eyed, direct, the kind of woman who did not waste words and did not apologize for seeing clearly. She offered me espresso from a machine that probably cost more than my car. I've been watching your career for 3 years, Catherine said without preamble. Every major win at Harrison has your signature on it. The Meridian save, the Apex renegotiation, the Stellar Systems implementation that came in under budget and ahead of schedule. You're the strategic brain of that operation. My father would disagree, I said. Your father is protecting his investment in his nephew's career advancement, she replied, matter of fact, not cruel. I'm not interested in his feelings. I'm interested in results. And you consistently deliver results that exceed projections. Then she slid a folder across the desk. I opened it. The offer was breathtaking. Chief Strategy Officer. $520,000 base salary. Performance bonuses up to $200,000 annually. Equity worth $1.2 million when fully vested. Full autonomy over strategic initiatives. My own team. My own office. An office with windows. Real windows. Why me? I asked. Because you don't need a seat at someone else's table, Catherine said. You build the tables. You've just been forced to pretend someone else built them. I'm offering you a place where your name goes on your work. I thought about my father's words. Not leadership material. I'll need to give notice, I said. Take whatever time you need, Catherine replied. I want you rested and ready, not burned out and bitter. Though I won't pretend I'm not looking forward to Harrison scrambling when they realize what they've lost. I signed the offer letter that night, and the next morning, I gave notice. My father's face changed color in ways I had never seen on a human being. "You're leaving?" he said. "Now? Right when Brandon is transitioning into his new role?" "That's exactly why I'm leaving," I said. "He should learn to run the company he's been made CEO of." His shock hardened into anger almost instantly. "This is betrayal. After everything this family has given you, after everything I've built for you, you built this company on my work, Dad. You just gave the credit to Brandon. Novak Solutions is offering me a title that matches my contributions and compensation that reflects my actual value. This was the easiest decision I've ever made. You'll regret this," he snapped. "You can't just abandon your family." I looked at him steadily. "I'm not abandoning family. I'm leaving a company that treats me like support staff while handing executive titles to someone who still asks me to explain basic concepts." Brandon appeared in the doorway then, as if he had been hovering nearby waiting for the explosion. "Rachel, wait. Maybe we can restructure. Make you president, or chief operating officer. Or what?" I cut in. 8 years of doing your work, Brandon. 8 years of mentoring you while you took the credit. 8 years of watching you get promoted past me for work I did. And now that I'm leaving, suddenly there's room to restructure? "I didn't ask for this," Brandon said quietly. "No," I said, "but you took it anyway. You stood in boardrooms and accepted applause for strategies I created. You could have said something. You never did." I picked up the box, holding the few things I had accumulated over 8 years. There was not much. A plant Mrs. Patterson had given me. Photos from client events where I was always somewhere in the background. The handwritten note from Meridian thanking me for saving their company. Mrs. Patterson met me in the lobby. She pressed an envelope into my hand and said, "Open it later. And Rachel, you're going to be extraordinary. Come back and tell me about it." I left without looking back. I walked to my car, put the box in the trunk, and drove away from 8 years of invisible labor. Later, when I opened the envelope, I found a $1,000 check and a note. Not charity. An investment in someone who always should have been CEO. Make them regret it. At Novak Solutions, everything changed. I had an office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. A team of 8 strategists who reported directly to me. Projects with my name in bold at the top of every proposal. Lead strategist, Rachel Harrison. Chief Strategy Officer. The first time Catherine asked for my opinion in a leadership meeting, I braced for interruption. I waited for someone to translate my thinking into simpler language. I waited for the moment when someone would take my idea, polish it with executive tone, and present it back to the room as if it had not been mine in the first place. No one did. Catherine nodded once and said, "Solid analysis. Let's build on that framework." My direct report, Sarah, set up weekly one-on-ones not to micromanage me, but to ask real questions. What resources do you need? How can I support your initiatives? What obstacles should I clear? When I delivered my first major strategy presentation, a market expansion plan for Novak's enterprise division, the board applauded. Catherine sent a company-wide email that read, "This is what strategic excellence looks like. Rachel Harrison just mapped our next 3 years of growth. This is leadership." I cried in the parking garage afterward, not from sadness, from relief, from the disorienting shock of finally being seen, finally being valued, finally having my work acknowledged with my own name attached to it. My therapist, Dr. Singh, helped me understand what I was feeling. During our second session, she said, "You're grieving. Not the job?" I asked. "Not the job. The relationship with your father that you wanted but never had. He's called 23 times, I told her. I haven't answered. That's boundary setting," she said. "How does it feel?" "Terrifying, but also peaceful. Both can coexist." Dr. Singh handed me a worksheet on boundary scripts and reminded me that no is a complete sentence. I did not owe explanations to people who had profited from my self-erasure. The evidence folder helped. I had kept everything. Emails, project documentation, client testimonials, my own spreadsheet tracking 8 years of contributions. Every time doubt crept in, every time I wondered if maybe I had overreacted, maybe I had been selfish, maybe my father had been right that I was not leadership material, I opened that folder. The data said otherwise. The data said I had always been a leader. He had simply refused to admit it. 2 months into my role at Novak, the earthquake hit Harrison Technologies. It began with Meridian Industries. Their CEO, James Whitfield, called my personal cell phone, the same number I had given him 3 years earlier during the infrastructure crisis, with instructions to call anytime, day or night. "Rachel, I need to talk to you about something sensitive," he said. "Of course, James. What's happening?" "We finalized the contract renewal with Harrison last month. $65 million over 4 years. You negotiated every term. You designed the implementation plan. But now we're dealing with Brandon," and he stopped there, searching for a diplomatic way to say something that did not need diplomacy. "Rachel," he said finally, "he doesn't understand our technical requirements. He can't answer basic questions about the architecture you designed. We've tried to work with him, but after 3 meetings where he promised to get back to us on fundamental details, we're concerned." I kept my tone careful. "I'm sorry you're experiencing that. I'm calling because Meridian wants to move our account to Novak Solutions," he said. "We don't want Harrison Technologies. We want you. You've always been our real partner. We're just following the expertise." For one brief second, loyalty rose in me like muscle memory. Family, obligation, the right thing to do. Then I thought about 8 years of invisible labor. I thought about my father telling me I was not leadership material while relying on me to hold together the company he handed to Brandon. So I said what I should have said long ago. "Let me connect you with Catherine Novak, our CEO. We'd be honored to work with Meridian." The meeting took place 48 hours later. Catherine, James Whitfield, Meridian's CTO, their CFO, and me. For 3 hours, we reviewed their needs. I presented the implementation framework I had already designed, the same framework Brandon could not explain to them. James listened, then leaned back in his chair and said, "This is exactly what we need. The expertise, the attention to detail, the strategic thinking. This is what we thought we were getting from Harrison." Then he looked directly at me. "Rachel, you saved our company 3 years ago. You've guided every major technology decision since then. We want to continue that partnership, but we want it official. We want it with you, where you're actually valued." Meridian signed with Novak the following week. $65 million over 4 years, the largest contract in Novak Solutions history. Catherine promoted me to Executive Vice President of Strategic Accounts on the spot. She added another $100,000 to my base salary and granted me equity worth an additional $800,000. "You just transformed this company," she said. "This contract validates everything we're building. You're not just an employee, Rachel. You're a cornerstone." That evening, my phone detonated with messages. Brandon first. "Rachel, we need to talk urgently. Meridian just canceled. Dad is panicking. Please call me." Then board members from Harrison. "We should schedule a meeting, discuss possibilities for collaboration." Then my father. "You poached our biggest client. This is industrial sabotage. This is theft." I blocked the number. Dr. Singh had prepared me for this exact moment. "They'll escalate when they realize they can't control you anymore," she had said. "Expect commands, then guilt, then threats, then desperate bargaining. Don't engage unless you choose to." I did not choose to. Catherine, however, was delighted. One of the top 5 consulting firms in the region had just lost its anchor client to us. "Rachel," she said, "you're not just good at this work. You're transformational." The second defection came 3 weeks later. Apex Digital. Their vice president of technology called me directly. "Rachel, I'm going to be blunt. Since you left, Harrison's service quality has collapsed. Brandon doesn't understand our technical stack. He missed 2 quarterly reviews. When we raised concerns about our roadmap, he assured us the team would handle it, but no one contacted us. We don't want teams. We want the person who actually understands our business. We want you." Apex moved their $15 million contract to Novak. The third defection made industry headlines. Stellar Systems moves $22 million account to Novak Solutions following strategic excellence. The article quoted Stellar directly. "We partnered with Harrison Technologies because of Rachel Harrison's strategic vision. When she moved to Novak Solutions, the choice was obvious. Expertise matters more than company legacy." After that, my phone became unusable. Messages flooded in faster than I could block them. Brandon again, but no longer trying to sound professional. Rachel, please. You're destroying us. Dad's having panic attacks. We've lost $12 million in contracts. We need help. Board members grew more desperate. We should discuss terms for your return. Name your price. My uncle joined in. You're tearing this family apart. Brandon looks 10 years older. Your father can't sleep. How can you be so cold? I blocked the numbers one by one. Then Mrs. Patterson texted me. 7 senior people quit this week, including me. Brandon is in over his head, and David still won't admit it. The whole company is chaos. But you're thriving. Proud of you, Rachel. At Novak, Catherine called a company meeting and announced that we had grown 43% in 3 months. We were opening a new office. Our client retention was 100%, and Rachel Harrison's leadership had transformed the company's trajectory. Then she gestured toward me and said, "This is what happens when you recognize and reward actual talent instead of trying to jam square pegs into round holes because of nepotism." The room erupted. People applauded for me, for my work, for leadership that was finally, officially mine. By month 4, Harrison had entered the desperate phase. My father and Brandon showed up at Novak's offices unannounced. Security called upstairs. Catherine came to my office first. 2 men claiming to be family are asking for you, she said. Want me to have them removed? I thought about saying yes. I thought about how easy it would be to leave them downstairs in the lobby, waiting, ignored, forced to sit in the kind of invisibility they had assigned to me for 8 years. But Dr. Singh had said something that stayed with me. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you create for yourself. So I said, I'll meet them in the cafe downstairs. Public space, 30 minutes maximum. We sat at a corner table surrounded by glass walls and other professionals. Witnesses everywhere. My father looked diminished somehow. Older, thinner. Brandon looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, like the role he had wanted so badly, had finally shown him its actual weight. Thank you for seeing us, my father began. I waited. We may have underestimated your contributions to the company, he said carefully. The phrase was so sterile, so precise, it sounded more like legal positioning than remorse. We'd like to discuss your returning as president and chief operating officer. Substantial compensation increase. Real authority. Brandon would remain CEO, but you'd handle all strategic operations. What's substantial? I asked. $350,000 base, he said, plus performance bonuses, plus equity. I almost laughed. $350,000. Novak pays me $620,000 base, I said. I have equity worth $2 million. I have a team that respects me. I have a CEO who values my input. I have clients who followed me because they trust my expertise. Why would I take a massive pay cut to return to a company where I would still report to someone who doesn't understand basic technical concepts? My father's shoulders dropped. I was wrong, he said quietly, about the leadership material comment. I see now that you were leading all along. Brandon needed the opportunity. He needed to prove himself. And I didn't? I asked. I didn't need opportunities. I didn't need someone to believe in me. Silence landed hard on the table. Then Brandon spoke for the first time. I told Dad you should have been CEO. I said it after the announcement, but he insisted I was ready. And I wanted to believe him. I wanted to prove I could do it. I nodded slowly. I know. Brandon was not malicious. That was the tragedy. He was weak. He accepted what he had not earned because it was easier than challenging the family system built to protect him. But you took the position anyway, I said. You stood in meetings and accepted praise for work I did. You could have insisted I be promoted alongside you. You didn't. We're losing everything, my father said, and now his voice cracked for real. We've lost $12 million in contracts. 30% of our staff is gone. Investors are pulling funding. If we don't turn this around in 45 days, we're filing bankruptcy. Then hire a qualified strategist, I said. There are excellent ones in the market. Rachel, please. He leaned forward then, and for the first time in my life, the man who had always spoken in directives and judgments sounded helpless. I'm asking you to save the company. I'm asking you to come back and help us survive. I looked at him for a long moment. This man had built a company, yes, but he had also built an entire culture around refusing to see the daughter who kept it alive. He had handed my cousin an executive title for work I did. He had called me inadequate while depending on my competence. And now, only when the structure collapsed without me, he wanted to rewrite the story. "You had 8 years to ask for my help while valuing it," I said softly. "You used those years to tell me I wasn't enough. That Brandon was better. That executive presence mattered more than actual results. I believed you until I found a company that judged me on merit. And then I built something without you. Something where my work has my name on it. Where my success is acknowledged. Where I'm not invisible. So you're just gonna let everything we built collapse?" he asked bitterly. "We built?" I repeated. I leaned back and gave him the numbers he had ignored for years. The data shows I brought in $34 million over 8 years. I maintained a 98% client retention rate. I managed 23 major implementations. I mentored your staff. I resolved every crisis. I negotiated every major contract. I held that company together while you handed Brandon credit for my achievements. Then I stood. What you built was a company dependent on labor you refused to credit. What I built is a career where my contributions are recognized and rewarded. We're both living with our choices. I picked up my bag and walked away. I did not look back. 5 weeks later, the Regional Business Journal published an article that hit the industry like a hammer. From shadow to spotlight, how one executive rebuilt her career after family betrayal. Catherine had encouraged me to do the interview. "Your story matters," she said. "There are people trapped in family businesses all over this industry, doing executive-level work while being told they are not enough. They need to know they can leave." The journalist did the work properly. Thorough research, former Harrison employees, clients, documentation, hard facts. I spent 8 years being told I wasn't leadership material while operating as the company's chief strategist, the article quoted me saying. The clients knew it. The staff knew it. The only people who refused to acknowledge it were the ones benefiting from my invisibility. The piece detailed my role at Novak, the clients who had followed me, my upcoming keynote at the National Technology Leadership Conference. It went viral in business circles. My inbox filled with messages from strangers who were not strangers at all. Just people living the same pattern in different buildings. Daughters inside family businesses. Sons overlooked for younger siblings. Employees watching less qualified relatives get promoted over them. "Thank you for speaking up. I'm in the exact same situation. 15 years doing my brother's work. This helped me see I'm not crazy." I left my family's company last month after reading this. I already have 3 offers. Brandon sent one message too. The article was hard to read. "Fair. I'm sorry for everything." I did not respond. Then my father sent one final email. "You've humiliated this family publicly, made us look incompetent. Don't expect forgiveness." I replied with one line. "I don't expect it. I don't need it." Then I blocked the address permanently. The bankruptcy filing was announced 6 weeks before the National Technology Leadership Conference. Harrison Technologies files Chapter 11. Regional tech firm crumbles after talent exodus. The article was brutal because it was accurate. Client losses totaling $12 million. Staff departures reaching 43 employees in 4 months. Failed investor negotiations. The building lease terminated. David Harrison stepping down. Brandon Harrison position eliminated. When I read it, what I felt was not satisfaction, not guilt, just a distant melancholy for what could have been if my father had made different choices 8 years earlier. Mrs. Patterson called me that evening. "How are you processing the news?" she asked. "I'm okay." "Really? Is that strange?" "No, honey. It means you've healed. You built something new. The old chapter is just closed now." She was right. I had built something new. At Novak, I had just closed a $47 million contract with an international manufacturing firm. Catherine was creating a new role for me, Chief Innovation Officer. My team had grown to 15 people, and I mentored them the way I had always wished to be mentored, with recognition, opportunity, and credit attached to the work they actually did. Tom, one of my senior strategists, brought his family into the office the day I promoted him to director. His mother hugged him with tears streaming down her face and said, "We always knew you were brilliant. We're so proud of you." I excused myself, went to the restroom, cried for 5 minutes, then came back smiling. Dr. Singh helped me understand that too. "You're not grieving what you lost," she said. "You're grieving what you never had." A parent who could see your worth. Will it always hurt? I asked. It will hurt less. And eventually, you'll realize the freedom is worth more than the fantasy. The National Technology Leadership Conference was held in a convention center with 3,000 attendees. I was the opening keynote. The topic was leading from wherever you are, recognizing and claiming your value. Backstage, Catherine adjusted my lapel mic and smiled at me. Nervous? Terrified. Good. That means you care. Go show them what not leadership material actually looks like. I walked onto the stage to applause. 3,000 people, a sea of faces, bright lights, a room humming with expectation. I scanned the audience, and there they were in the back, partially hidden behind a column. My father and Brandon. Both in business casual, no suits, no polished executive armor. My father looked haggard. Brandon looked like he had aged 5 years. I could have had security remove them. I could have ignored them completely. Instead, I began. 8 years ago, I worked for a company that told me I wasn't leadership material. I believed them until I realized that judgment came from people who could not run their own company without the person they refused to promote. The room went still. I talked about invisible labor, documentation, measurable value. The danger of building someone else's empire while your own potential withers in the shadows. I was told I lacked executive presence, I said, looking directly at my father, by someone who gave my cousin a CEO position based on family connection instead of competence. And when I left, taking my expertise and my client relationships with me, the company collapsed. Not because I sabotaged anything, but because the foundation was one person pretending to lead while another person did the actual work. No one moved. No one coughed. Every eye stayed fixed on me. Then I gave them the lesson that had cost me 8 years to learn. Your value is not determined by who refuses to see it. Your potential is not limited by who underestimates you. And loyalty to people who exploit you is not virtue. It is self-betrayal. I talked about Catherine telling me that I build the tables. I talked about Sarah asking what I needed instead of telling me what to do. I talked about clients who followed me because they valued expertise more than company logos. And then I said the words we